One of the most important things that I get asked about a lot is how do you deal with gates when you're installing Eve's Revenge snake snares? Gates clearly have to be able to swing freely and move. So we don't ever want to have to stake the material down tightly to the ground, you know, in front of where a gate has to open freely. The solution is very simple for gates. Instead of actually using Eve's Revenge snake snares material, what I recommend for gates is doing a gate sweep. And I'm going to show you now how to do a gate sweep. The material that looks the nicest is PVC coated hardware cloth. This stuff can be bought at any of your local hardware stores. They also make this hardware cloth in a galvanized material. Now, I do find the galvanized material to be helpful sometimes, especially when I'm doing, let's say, a black cyclone fence, and you put galvanized metal against a black cyclone fence, it contrasts really a lot, and it looks bad having just regular galvanized metal up against a fence. So the galvanized metal takes paint very, very well, and it can be painted to match any setting that you are attaching your hardware cloth up against. From personal experience, I've found that the PVC coated hardware cloth, it lasts longer. It does not want to break down under the harsh weather that we have here in the South, and it seems to hold up pretty darn good. So the first thing you do when you're dealing with the gate is you want to make sure that Eve's Revenge snake snares comes all the way past the gap that you're dealing with from your post to the start of your gate system. You want your net to cover this gap here, and the net will attach to the first structure post of the gate itself, okay? And then when we cut our hardware cloth to size, the hardware cloth is going to mount directly over this post and continue down to the gate, and I'll show you what we do on the other side of the gate once we get there. So what I do is I lay it right up next to the gate that I'm going to cut. So just kind of get your distance measured out. We want to make sure that the edge of this comes to the edge of this, right where our netting ends. So where the netting ends, our gate sweep will begin. Now the idea for the gate sweep is it has to touch the ground. We don't want any snakes to go underneath this bar here. So the idea when you attach the gate sweep is to direct the snakes around the gate and not under the gate. Because if they happen to come right to your gate and hit this spot here, they're going to go on down to where Eve's Revenge snake snares will grab them and hold them until you decide what you want to do with them. Now once you get your length cut out, this part's really personal preference. How high do you want this to go? Some people may want it to come up this high, but for me personally, I usually keep it the same height as the barrier itself. So if the barrier itself is ending right here, and my gate sweep is touching the ground, see how I got it tightly on the ground? That's where we want this. We want this piece of metal to drag this concrete every time somebody opens this gate and closes it back. That's very important. So we get our distance set by pushing this part to the ground, seeing where our top of our barrier ends, and then we're going to take that spot right there and we're going to go ahead and cut it off all the way across. Now once we have our length cut out, I try to just kind of roll it back the opposite direction of how it was rolled up to kind of relax the material. Otherwise it'll keep wanting to take its shape of the roll, and it's very unwieldy and hard to deal with. So now that we're here, we have a nice even level. We make sure that this covers the very end. And then with our zip ties supplied, we attach it to the fence. And this is another important aspect of it. We always want to bring the fence, the hardware cloth material, past this gap here, because we don't want any snakes to shoot up this gap either. So by overlapping it with the hardware cloth, it literally goes all the way across this gap, and the teeth on the hardware cloth touch this pole right here. And that helps ensure that there's no small gap to allow a snake to hit that spot either. Once we get this attached in place, we go along, we secure it here, here, there, and a few on the bottom, and then our gate sweep is in place. Let's finish it up. If you're doing this work by yourself, it's hard to get your hand around the back side of this while you're trying to zip tie. These top ones are easy to do. Once you get to these bottom ones, it's not so easy if you're by yourself. So what I like to do is just take the zip ties, kind of fold them, and shove both ends through the fence. Several different spots, all the way down, and then all you need to do is walk around to the inside of the gate, grab both ends and secure them in place, and it's done. Just kind of eliminates a lot of the back and forth. Now if you see what I see, we got a problem here. Seems like it fits fine, but this part right here is not really fitting fine. The best way to deal with this is to take your scissors and see where it's hitting and just make a little bitty cut right there. And that will allow this piece to swivel freely. And now you can attach it to this bottom point without putting this in stress or having it bowed out and looking bad. Sometimes you won't be able to wrap your zip tie around the pole, it's too short. In that case, you can just simply put two of them together like this, and then you have a lot more room to play with. We can go ahead and take the excess tie wrap material off. And we can see that it touches the ground all the way across, and it's not going to allow for any unwanted snakes to just happen to hit the only spot on this fence line that doesn't have a barrier on it. The chances are actually slim that they're going to find the gate first, but there's always that chance. That's why it's important to try to manage any gate or cattle guard area that you may have depending on your setup. Cattle guards can simply be dealt with by putting rows of netting, just like we do on our freestanding units, down inside the cattle guard. Clearly, your truck's got to go over the cattle guard, and if the snakes go under it and down, they have to hit that netting that's laying in the bottom of the cattle guard. Any other type of gate system works the same way. Double gates, just do a longer, wider gate sweep. Some folks I've installed these for don't prefer that both sides of the gate be done. They want one side with the barrier on it, the other side with a gate sweep. It's personal preference. Everybody wants theirs done to their likeness. So there's many different ways to do this. What I'm showing you today is the best way that I've found in the last several years we've been experimenting with this system.